a year extended to 2, extended to 3.
I started getting a little anxious. I just wanted the kids to start coming, but they were not forthcoming.
I am Okewo Peter. It was on Tuesday. I was in my office trying to clear up a couple of jobs, but I couldn't concentrate because there was a lot of stuff in my head I was trying to resolve. A lot of thoughts flooding my mind. I was supposed to make a decision, and in my confusion, I just heard in my spirit, run to church. And it just clicked. I was like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. I picked up my key, drove down straight to church, called my FOG leader, and I said, I need to see pastor. And he said, oh, you need to get an appointment. And I said, I don't have one, but I need to see pastor. So I got to church. I filled the visitors form. The front desk asked the same question. Do you have an appointment? I said, no, I don't have an appointment, but I really need to see pastor. And I just filled the form in faith, and she took the form right in. Within a few minutes, she came back surprised, and she said to me, Pastor said she would see you. I could see the surprise on her face, and she said to me, this really happens. And I said, oh, I'm the favored one. I was ushered into her office, and when I met her, she said to me, young man, what is the issue? I was in a meeting and God said I should see you. I had to stop this meeting to see you. And those words meant a lot to me because it was just like what I wanted to hear. I mean, like God said she should see me. God was aware that I was in the midst of, this confusion, that I had to make a decision and all of that. And I went into counseling with her. I got married to my beautiful wife, 2011, and we had agreed personally that we didn't want to have children in our first year of marriage. We didn't do any medical procedure or didn't take any preventives. It's just a simple act of faith. We don't want to have children. If they come, fine, But a year extended to 2, extended to 3.
I started getting a little anxious. I just wanted the kids to start coming, but they were not forthcoming.
And it became a major challenge.
As a little girl growing up, I never used to have a regular menstrual cycle. Sometimes I could just see my period 5 or 6 times in a year. I knew it wasn't okay and something was wrong. I consulted my doctor and he said it was going to regularize with time. And so I took his words. So I decided to go for another checkup this time, and I wanted to use a foreign doctor this time. When I got there, she said I was going to do hormonal profile. Whatever the result is, then they will take from there. But first of all, I was going to do a pregnancy test. The urine sample was taken. They came and they told me it was weak positive. I was wondering which is weak positive. I said, okay, but to be very sure, I should just do blood. But it's weak positive. I didn't want to do blood because if urine is saying weak positive, obviously it's positive. When the second thought, I just said, just do. And I did with the blood, and the result came out positive. Second week in January, the next year, I decided to just go for a scan and see how baby was doing. I went. The sonographer was checking and checking and checking. And he would ask me, Madam, did you say you did the pregnancy test? I said, yes. He would check again, check, and I asked, when did you do this test? I was wondering why he was asking so many questions. After a while, he said, I can't find anything. Immediately, the whole joy and excitement just went down. I went back home feeling very depressed, very depressed. I had to return to the doctor to tell them this is what happened. I didn't bleed, but the pregnancy is not there. She tried to find out what would have gone wrong, and she couldn't give me any correct explanation. But she dared to do the scan on her by herself, and she discovered I had PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. And so she said I was going to be placed on medication for a while. That was the beginning of my drugs taking. I took drugs and drugs and drugs. I became a walking pharmacy.
Unfortunately, it didn't produce the results that were intended.
I took a lot of drugs, and sometimes it made me bleed. Sometimes I could bleed for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I'm bleeding. It was so much on me.
We got an advice from family that referred us to a hospital where they had expatriates come in and perform medical procedures in cases like ours. So we went there just to see what they had to say, and 2 procedures were recommended. The first was ovarian drilling, which was supposed to cost about $6,000. There's another procedure, IVF, that was supposed to cost about $10,000. So we had about $16,000, if we wanted to do the procedure. And in fact, from the meeting when we were with the doctor, you could see in my wife's eyes that she was just tired of everything and she just wanted something that would work. It just didn't go in well with my spirit. I just felt it wasn't what God wanted for us. And it was in the midst of that I knew I had to see Pastor that day. I told her the history of my life, my marriage. We're having challenges in our marriage and a lot of issues, and not having a child more like worsened the whole thing. I told her about the procedure that we wanted to embark on, and I had to sign that very day. And she listened so closely, didn't say a word, and she said to me, "Where is your wife?" And I said, "I really can't tell." She said, "Call her."
And he called me to come down immediately. Oh. And I rushed down to the office. Pastor saw us. That was the first time I was actually having a close contact with her.
I went in Pastor's office for 3 hours, and she kept talking. In the midst of that, my wife wept so closely. She just wouldn't stop crying. And for the first time, I could see her frustration. I could see what she had been through. I mean, in 3 years, just trying to have a baby, Pastor held her close and she wept on Pastor's shoulders and she counseled.
So she said, will I just calm down and allow us walk on my faith? God was going to do it. And for the first time, I really felt calm.
She recommended some messages for us, Mark 11, 22 to 24 and more. Then also referred my wife particularly to Sarah's Corner on the website. She should study the articles, and it was more like a simple remedy because I wasn't told to do like 34 days fasting, for things that are this serious. I can remember her words clearly. They never left me. She said, "I am sure, absolutely sure that God is going to do a miracle in your life." And it was so liberating to hear those words. We left her office charged up. It was like, we're plugged into electricity receiving those words. And right then went to the audio media department, got the message booked, and
we listened to that tape over and over and over. It was a blessing to us. So the journey began. She was working closely with us.
It was an interesting time It was like we just got born again afresh.
Discovered that I wasn't so worried and anxious like I used to. January or late December, I and my husband had a serious misunderstanding, and so he traveled, actually for a production, not because of the misunderstanding.
While I was in Lagos doing my work, I slept in the night, and around 2 a.m. I woke up from something that seemed like a dream, vision, if you like. And right there, I was seated in a white room with a couple of friends. We're gisting, and all of a sudden, it translated into a reception. And then he had 2 doors, and then the lady walked in from one of the doors, handed me a paper, and said, "Congratulations, sir. Your wife is 3 weeks and a day pregnant." And I was shocked. It was in the midst of that I woke up from sleep, all sweating and all of that. And I sent my wife a text message.
He sent me a text and said, "Please, can you just do a pregnancy test? You'll be 3 weeks and a day pregnant." When I got it, when I was first of all angry, in the midst of anger, I just said, I am not doing any test, I'm not pregnant. Also, I didn't want to go through the trauma because I have done a lot of tests. You can't even think of it.
That made a lot of sense because it's some months, even when we were trusting God, she bloated and you were like, oh, the miracle happened, and only for the test results to come back and nothing. So I just understood, just kept quiet, returned back to Port Harcourt after my production, and I met her sick.
He came back and told me he wanted me to do a pregnancy test again. I said, okay, just give me 1 week. I will do malaria test first. If malaria test says negative ahead, then I will think, well, let me do malaria test first. We waited, and it was 2 days. He looked at me, I was still a bit down. He said, please. I said, no, I will do it later. I really don't want to feel terrible because if I check and it's negative, I'm going to feel more terrible. But later, I just checked, and I just checked. In fact, the funny part is that when I put this strip, I had to close my eyes and just leave it. After a while, before I went back and I checked, and it was 2 red lines, positive. I didn't believe. I ran downstairs and I couldn't just understand. I went back and I checked the second, I put the third one, and I labeled them sample 1, sample 2, sample 3. I just wanted to be seeing 2 red lines, 2 red lines, 2 red lines. And I called my husband and I said, where are you? Please come home.
I rushed home, got into the house. The parlor was empty. So I walked into the bedroom, opened the door, and she laid weeping. And the first thing that came to mind, like, what? Something terrible must have happened. And she said, sweetie, 2 lines. I didn't know what that meant. 2 lines, what is 2 lines? And she told me, I am pregnant. And I can't even say how I felt. And I just quietly walked into my room as a strong man. And I began to sob a little, quietly, silently.
He called Pastor Ketch and booked an appointment. I went to see her. All she said was, praise belongs to you, great and mighty God. Your anthem, Lord, we raise, great and mighty God.
Made a lot of prophecies, and we're so excited. After the prayers, we left the office, and it was more like a countdown to the baby coming forth.
I went through the pregnancy to do nothing, no sickness, nothing. The 9 months was peaceful. So that I went till we were all waiting for the EDD, and the day finally came.
12 hours, she hadn't come forth with the baby, and after a long wait, the doctor decided that it was time to carry out a medical procedure. And then again, I called Pastor and I said, this is what the doctor is saying. And she said, what do you want? And I said, Pastor, let's go on with the procedure. And she said, very well, put your wife on the phone. And she prayed for her on the phone, and we got into surgery, and within 45 minutes, I guess, I was praying, but was also, timing, the baby came forth and kept praying until the mother came forth, and it was such an exciting time. It was so amazing to see what God had done.
God kept Jaden. God kept me. Jaden came out strong, mother alive, the child alive. I want to appreciate God for bringing us to a place like this. God will hear the word. Even sometimes when the choir just ministers, just okay for you. The word changed my life. The word kept me. The word preserved me. The word brought forth Jaden. And we are grateful to God. Everyone just has to cling to the word. The word works. Jaden is a proof that the word works. God does not forget his own, not for a minute. We say thank you to God. We say thank you to our pastor. We thank you to the church. We say to God be all the glory forever. Amen.
Regardless of how long, regardless of how hard, regardless of no results, regardless of the situation, the game changer is the word of God. Don't give up until the change has come. You could just be 1 minute away from your miracle and you turn back.
Healing service with Pastor Nkechiene. Join us for this supernatural combined service on Sunday, 1st of May 2016 at 9 a.m. prompt at the Carpenters Church, Greenville, the Carpenters Drive, off Ajiboy Warfare Road, Mile 4, Rumeme, Port Harcourt.
Jesus never misses a service in CCC.